All right, I guess it's time for us to get started.
Hey, rock and roll! Welcome to this podcast. Yeah, we're here with some frosty pants. Yeah, that's right.
That is a lot more energy than I remember from last
Dude,
podcast.
for some reason, when you're playing Abomination and you lose Unstoppable Rage, it doesn't feel that bad. It's one of those losses where you're just like, well, I guess I lose, and like you can see it coming too, because like you should never win that matchup unless your opponent's just like an absolute moron.
Or
Yeah.
they don't draw the rage. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. Oh man, so we got some sexy new emotes on my channel. Have you seen these?
yeah, I have. Looks
got
like we got some people in chat that are showing them off.
Oh hell yeah, Zombie Hunter 9x19, Skitter, Talos Rises. What is up, guys? Yeah. So this is our first. I mean, are we in season 4 now because there's been a new expansion?
I don't know. This actually isn't a new season. We're gonna call this the Fun and Interactive New Client.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. That's fancy.
Yeah, we're on a new client now.
Sounds like we're a prostitute.
Now we just need more skilled podcasters to take over and have better iterative development and make us run faster and smarter and stronger.
You know, in I've noticed in recent weeks actually 2 new podcasts have launched for Legends.
Yeah, I have noticed that as well.
Fuck. That's cool though. That's good. That's good. We have our niche, which is that we did it. Well, actually, we didn't even do it first.
No, we didn't do it first, and we haven't done it better than anybody else. We're Blockbuster Video of the podcast and Legends community.
I worked at Blockbuster for 2 years.
Oh,
No, we really are.
Yeah, we really are.
But you know what? Like, this expansion has been really exciting for me. I have to say, like, you were so. All the people know that, like, when it first came out and I was playing on my lunch break that day, I had a little bit of a meltdown talking to Christian and Derek.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
I had a little bit of a meltdown because I'm trying to play the Wounded Warrior deck, and I ran into nothing but Halalu aggro until Conscription. I just lost and lost and lost and lost, like, over and over and over again. And I was just pissed. And finally, I'm like, well, I'm going to play Abomination. My first game with Abomination, I got fucking Memory Wraith twice. And it was just like soul crushing. And I even said, like, I don't think I want to stream tonight. So I'm like, Sandra, what you want to go out to dinner or something? She's like, aren't you streaming? I was like, well, I was going to, but I'm feeling real shitty. She's like, Justin, there's a new expansion out. You have to stream tonight. I was like, oh, yes, ma'am. And so I was like, what can I do? What can I do? So I started playing some more Abomination. Won a couple games. Started getting my mojo back. And then chat was like, all right, Justin, like, play some new cards. And I realized, like, even though I had a ton of stupid things I wanted to do, none of those things were going to beat the decks that had been kicking my ass earlier that day. So I was like, how do I beat fucking Conscription? And so I played Unstoppable Rage for 2 hours, and my soul was unburdened and unmoored and untethered by the fetters of fucking the boring meta we've had for 7 months. It was beautiful. It was a cathartic experience, and, like, I'm back with Legends in this real way now.
Yeah, before we went live, Justin and I were going through, like, stuff that we want to do, and I realized that I have, like, 14 new decks that I want to play with.
Yeah.
For the next couple of weeks for YouTube content and stuff. Like, it's so amazing what even a small number of cards can do for your creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even, like, look, I'm sure the meta will settle sooner rather than later just because it is only 11 cards. But what I like about it is that, like, my spirit has been renewed. I hate to get fucking weird about this, but, like, it's just been so long since we saw new cards. So long.
Yeah. I don't even...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't even have Mage on my list. Like, I haven't even thought about, hey, we got a monthly card in there. Like, I've played against it. I know people are enjoying that as well. It just hasn't even crossed my mind.
I mean, that card's not bad, but it's best as, like, just a cog in the tribunal machine, I think. But, yeah, I just, you know, the last new card we got was the fucking Prophet of Bones. Right?
What?
You and I were hanging out the day that card came out, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
man. I want to say, one of the things that I enjoy most about your story of catharsism is that it was unstoppable rage that got you there. I remember a time when Justin and I have pretty frequent debates about, wait, did I say rebates just now? Pretty frequent debates about like cards and card design and like directions that we would like the game to go or not go. And there was a time when Justin loathed Unstoppable Rage. He basically thought it was like everything that was wrong with the game. And now he loves it. I think
Well, okay, so there's a couple explanations for this. The first is that you did help me understand why that card wasn't the trash can fire I thought it was. But part of it is like it was a paradigm shift when that card came out, right? It was the first time, although like Gardener of Swords hinted at this direction, right? But it was the first time that we had ever had like an engine card. Right, like we had Altar of Despair, but Altar of Despair's limitation is its lack of relative power level.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you could argue the only real engine we had was Supreme Atromancer, because like Merrick was the combo deck back then, and even then that wasn't like a
right,
And
so I was a little uncomfortable because it heralded this shift, which has continued since then, away from incremental value in this game towards doing a thing. Like, this is what my deck does. It does this thing. And I was uncomfortable with that. I was really uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
I got used to it. I'm still not comfortable necessarily with whatever the fuck that card is. Conscription. I mean, I don't like playing against it. I do enjoy playing with it, but, it's one of those things.
Yeah, it's just interesting because if you're not a card game veteran, you may just not be familiar with the way that they historically function, right? You normally get like a base set, and your base set is very vanilla, and that's on purpose. You're trying to introduce your players to the very basic, most core mechanics. So you'll have a couple of flashy things, you'll have some cool interactions, but a lot of times when you look at a base set or you look at a core set for any card game, it's typically there to say, like, this is your starting point. This is what you need to kind of get a handle on. And then you can see all of the room for potential. You can see all the room for growth, but it's not there yet. And then what happens is, as new cards get released, there's this, like, what I call the expanding of the pendulum, right? Like, most card games will have this ebb and flow, or this back and forth in the game itself. Legends is a great example. Justin talked about incremental value. Old Legends, with the exception of like Burn and Pillage running rampant, it was a very like mid-rangey game by nature. You were playing creatures, you were fighting for the board, and the pendulum, if you will, right, would swing one way towards one player, one way towards the other player. Prophecies would make this ebb and flow go, but it was like within a certain range. And then as more cards come out, there's natural power creep, right, that people talk about, but there's also complexity creep. Things get more complex, things get more technical, they get more complicated, and so your combos are typically more powerful. So that pendulum for swinging back and forth starts swinging longer and longer, right? And so now we're hitting this point where in Legends, sometimes the pendulum just swings so far in one player's direction that it never comes back, right? We get the big combos like Nixox, or we get the huge splash plays like Conscription, or, big Unstoppable Rage plays. And that's just this like natural balancing pendulum getting a little more wild because of the complexity of the game. And that's normal in card games. But it does also create some pretty bad moments as well.
It does. And it took me some time, like I'm big on novelty, but not necessarily huge on change. Right? So it took me a minute. And now here we are, And the FrostSpark set, Jesus. We can discuss the name of the set later. But like the FrostSpark set, while like not the flashiest set we've ever had, or honestly even close to it, is, I don't know, it's, we've had two other mini sets, right, and both had like obvious build around stuff, right? The Singleton stuff and Gardener and Altar. This does not have that necessarily, but it's something that as a guy who's played Legends for 2.5 fucking years now, which is insane, like I can appreciate, you know. I do wonder what a new player like who started 3 weeks ago might think when they see this set.
I mean, there's nothing that's going to be... I think what's interesting about this set is that there's nothing that is the crux of your build around, right?
No.
Like, it's perfect what you said, right? When you build an Altar deck, you build a Gardener deck, you build a Singleton deck, you're building a deck because you want to take advantage of those cards. And what I think this mini set gave us were some build around cards, but these are the cards that are the enablers and not like the end result, if that makes sense. Like, I look at a card like Shadow Marking, and I have nonstop been thinking about things I want to do with it. Yeah. But Shadow Marking isn't the end goal, it's just an enabler. And I think that's what a lot of this set did. Moose is a great example of that. Moose was initially a letdown for a lot of people because the last 2 mini sets gave us neutral legendaries that were spawning a new archetype, right? Altar, Singleton stuff. And this legendary did not do that, but what this one did was really help enable a bunch of archetypes that had been struggling in the past. Spell Sword, it gives some great draw tools to Sorcerer. Mid-Monk I've been having a lot of success. And so it, like Shadow Marking, is more of an enabler for the other things. And I think I kind of appreciate that they gave us a set. Like, I understand the appeal, but I also kind of like that they gave us a set where there was no, like, hey, go build this, like, pointing out at you, because that was always one of my criticisms about Hearthstone design and recent expansions.
Right, there are no hero cards, no quest cards.
Right, quest cards, that's a big one, right? So, like, I kind of liked that that wasn't in this one, but I do understand what you are saying, and that if you're a new player and you look at this, you're saying, like, what do I need this set for? What is this telling me to do? There is no, you know, driving theme.
Right. That said, though, they did give us a build-around card on the first, which is Altmer Dragon Knight. I mean, which is actually, in my opinion, like a trap if you build around it. But, like, you know, it is that kind of card.
It's a trap.
It is, because it's a really solid card. But Action Mage is a bad deck.
Yeah, I think I agree.
It's a fun thing to do, right? And when you go off, it feels great, you know. But it's not.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that the build-around card for this was maybe Apex Wolf. I've been seeing a lot of people jamming it in and trying it out and doing things. Like, obviously, you had a lot of success in Rage Crusader. I got that win because it hit Odaving, which, like, validated my entire night, you know? So maybe that one is in secret, our build-around card.
I can see that, and it does have hints of that, right? And like I did say when the cards were being revealed, like piecemeal, that like it was, I thought a really, really well designed card, because it hits so many notes as far as like player demographics that might be interested in it, and I think it's actually proven to be slightly more competitively viable than like I would have thought it would be, although it's not. But it's good. It's definitely good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that it was going to be like dumpster tier. In my mind, I had been comparing it to, it was a higher risk, higher reward version of Fate Weaver. So if you follow like the history of Control, there are a number of Control decks popularized by players who no longer play the game that would oftentimes...
Maybe they do, and they just don't post their deck list anymore.
Who knows? But a number of times they would slide in and out depending on the meta Fate Weaver, and a lot of times when people would say, I don't understand why Fate Weaver is in this deck, their reply was simply, it draws a card. And sometimes that's all you care about in Control, is it's a body that draws a card.
I have to say something. So Blackfall's on my friends list.
Yeah.
Blackfall's rank 9.
So it has not played in a while.
Hasn't played in 2 months.
Yeah, at least.
But allegedly quit like 5 months ago.
Yeah. I don't think you can drop below rank 9, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think you ever go back to 12. I think 12 is like for the super beginner. Because you can't like lose stars ever or whatever up until 9, but...
I did not know that. That's actually sort of sad. I thought maybe they were just still playing in secret.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they are. I don't know. But the point is that Apex Wolf is that card, right? it's your 6 cost body and control that draws you a card. Now I say higher risk, higher reward because if it's silenced and killed, you don't get to draw the card. But it does have drain and breakthrough, and it does grant things drain and breakthrough, so there is like benefit there.
Hold on, I have another update. I'm looking at DC Deacon, Pete Hines' profile right now. He is rank 12.
Oh, yeah, and Shunara in chat says you can go back to rank 12. Yep. So, well.
People who might be rank 12 who are on my friends list, and I did not get disappointed. All right, sorry about that.
Well, then we stand corrected. Listen, what I'm about to say is going to sound super like snobby elitist, and I understand that, and I apologize, but I've never fallen like lower than rank 5.
I did once.
Yeah.
Once since the game launched. Yeah.
Yeah, I just...
Actually, it was last October. It was when I started grad school.
Yeah, I'm at a minimum, I've always hit at least legend. I don't always place like high legend or anything because that depends a lot on my free time. But I've always been at least legend. Even when we were traveling and I had to play in a hotel room with Justin, because that's happened more than once where I'm like, hey, I really just need like 3 more wins real quick to hit legend.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Those have been good times. I love that that's happened multiple times.
Multiple times.
And wait, but wasn't it... I mean, I feel like twice now we've been somewhere where multiple people have sat around your phone as you played and you beat LMAO. Hasn't that happened more than once?
I don't know if it was LMAO. Like, I've beaten him with multiple people around. That was the night when we were at the Cabal, like at Bethesda HQ.
Who were you playing when we were at the Wing place?
Petamax.
Petamax, that's right. That's right. And when all 16 QuakeCon competitors, you, me, CVH, Josh, and Corey are all sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah, I beat Petamax, and there was somebody else I beat because everybody else was having a good time, and I was like, I'm going to play some Legends. All the competitors got to spend all weekend or whatever it was playing Legends, and I barely got to play, and I was really hyped because the tournament had made me super excited to play the game. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to play it here while we're eating dinner. Don't judge me.
That is so funny. Aeolus, I always lose to LMAO as well.
Him and I are very back and forth. We always have great close games. Like, I can't ever think of a time where we've blown each other out, but we're usually like 50-50.
Well, I think I've played him twice, and both... I mean, okay, I take that back. I've beaten him in Arena, but like on the ladder, I played him twice. Both times he was playing some kind of, dirtly but like hilarious type of deck. And like, of course, that's kind of what I'm doing too, but I don't have a win condition.
Yeah.
So like, I remember one time I lost to Mushroom Tower Spellsword. And I don't remember the other one, but something similar happened.
Yeah, I always have great games with him, and then Frenzy is another one. Frenzy and I are very back and forth, and we always have great games as well.
I feel like Frenzy's a guy I've played a number of times. I think actually I got some videos on my channel playing him. I kind of stopped uploading videos where I lose though, so it's tough to say.
Well, that's because everyone knows that you're the best Legends player that ever played.
Obviously. Mercury999 says, I used to play top tier decks and got bored. Now I've devoted my life to the memes. Thanks, Justin. Oh, you're welcome, man. It's a good story. Silverfuse has a friend who ended in Legend but never logged on again, so they're always Legend. Even months later, they're Legend 1200. That's funny.
Oh, because it'll stay until they sign back in again or whatever. That is funny. Like the profile updates on login.
Justin goes 3-15 and uploads the 3 wins. Sometimes. It depends what I'm trying to do though. Like if I'm trying to convince people to play a deck, I'm not gonna come at it from that angle with something that I know is bad. Like I'll frame it as, hey, I'm trying to do something cool, and here it is. It really depends what I'm playing.
Yeah, I'm in that weird, like, I like to be competitive and I like winning, so I play more meta decks, but I usually still try to explore new areas of deck building with them, right? Like, there's a reason I've been thumping Satanine for 3 months or whatever it is now, because I think that it's, like, it's what I would call my my meta meme, right? Maybe that's my best description. I'm the meta memes. I try to get people to play Worm King's Agent and Satanines and things like that because I know they're, good enough to go there. Yeah. And then people just call me a liar. So I'm like that nice middle ground.
Yeah. I mean, you're also a liar, but it's incidental.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just not lying about that.
Yeah.
Just like I wasn't lying about Moose.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I don't know where we should begin here, but like I think it would be a reasonable place to start that we mention that we were like what 6 or 7 sets into Legends now, and every single time. How do I put this? The same people are always wrong about the same sorts of things for the same reason when they predict the power level of cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't... You know what I miss? I miss CVH predictions. Like...
Those are... Look, I mean, I love CVH. His predictions weren't great.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not going to pretend like I've got them all correct. There are certainly some cards that I have missed on, but I think that for a couple of guys who like don't take it as super serious as some other people do, we're usually pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're usually pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a difference too, like in like how we frame these things, right? Like in a video hyping up, like previewing the new cards, although I only got halfway through them before I just decided to start releasing gameplay videos again. You know, for Harmony, for instance, I'm like, this is a really fun card that you can do a lot of interesting, funny things with. But like, I never said like this is a good card. Although I think it's better than trash.
Yeah. Usually, so my rule of thumb, we were actually talking about this before we went live. I hate like ratings, and I honestly even hate like rankings. Like I know like CVH, for example, posted on Twitter, this is my rankings or whatever, and I saw some other people do it. Saying like one card is just better than another is really tough to do in a vacuum and things like that, because cards are powerful based on situations, right? Like the meta develops because of situations, and then certain cards will be better or worse because of the meta. So usually when I review cards, I try to talk about, instead of like, is this good or is this bad? I want to say like, this is when this would be good, and keep an eye out for that if the meta ever goes that way. Because that, I think, makes more sense. And I also think that it's just better for like helping new players assess things, because cards that might like be overlooked, you know, Forgotten Hero Collection is a great example, right? Like when you and I were reviewing those, we kept saying things like Doppelganger and Ulfric's Uprising and things like that at the time. You know, we said in that meta right then didn't necessarily have a place, but there was a period, there was a way where these could be powerful if the right conditions were met. And then we got Houses of Morrowind, and those conditions were met. So
you know, I'm just looking at it now. I guess I had forgotten that Uprising and Conscription are both in Forgotten Hero.
Yeah. And so is Cast into Time, Cradle Crush Giant, Bleak Coast Troll.
Yeah, these are all powerful cards.
Yeah.
Shrine to Namira. Voice of Balance, probably the least played card here.
Which was one that some people were very excited about, and I said that I felt like it was a bit too conditional, because it was never a real 4-drop.
Bleak Coast Troll, or Bleak Coast Troll, Voice of Balance is the Slay Khajiit of the Forgotten Hero collection.
No, I think it's the Bleak Coast Troll. The Slay Khajiit is just stats. Like, to me, when I look at Torval Extortionist, for example, like, we can talk about the power level of that. I just see a bunch of stats, right?
Yeah.
You're not, in my opinion, I don't think you play that card for the ability. The ability is like icing on the cake as a consolation. Like, oh, I didn't get to deal 7 damage to my opponent, I guess I get to play a big threat. But I don't think you build around it, unless you're doing it for memes. Like, if you're doing it for fun and you want to get like 30 magicka in a turn, you know, have at it, do it. But from a competitive point of view, it's really about investing 5 magicka into something that has 7 attacks so that you can swift strike with it, or monk strike, or whatever it is, right? Like, that's the power level of that card, because agility never had that high attack cheap creature until Extortionist.
That's fair. That is fair. So, okay, let's just go through the cards one by one, give some thoughts now that we've seen them all in action.
Yeah, I like where your head's at. Let me pull up a list here.
Everyone tried Voice of Balance work, I think Voice of Balance has a place in the world. That place is my support mage list.
So one thing I have noticed, I like to use Legends decks to take my screenshots of things, and they still have the Moose as a unique legendary. Like, it won't let me put more than one into a deck. It's kind of driving me nuts.
Good old Moose.
Malibu Barbus in chat says, for the new cards, rate them on a scale of from 1 to Moose.
That's a very reasonable scale.
All right. I've got
respect that scale.
I've got the list up. Why don't we just go in the order of like Magicka cost, right?
Okay.
Like, let's start with Karthspire Scout or Sandrork.
Sandrork, yeah. So Karthspire Scout, places I've seen it. Abomination, and I've seen it in Orcs. Warrior Orc 6. And it's been predictably good in Abomination. And I only played Nork deck once, and it did nothing.
Yep, that sounds about right, and that's pretty on par with where I was reviewing it. I felt like this was a great combo tool.
Yeah.
And I think that it's actually decent in Arena as well, right?
I do like that's a tough one. Why would you say that? I guess is my question.
Well, because, right, in Arena, it's typically like an aggro or a mid-range fest, and there's not a lot of playable one-drops, and I think that this is just good enough to say, like, I'll put this on the board. It either turns into free damage, it carries items pretty well in Arena. I don't think that the increased one cost is that big of a deal in Arena because the games aren't, like, over super fast necessarily. I think it's fine in Arena. But yeah, I mean, this is a combo piece, or something that maybe goes into some weird last gasp deck. But
okay, yeah, I like it in anything that wants to draw cards. I have not yet played it with a deck that's trying to use Betray with it. I think that's a reasonable thing you could do, but I haven't done it yet personally.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with stuff like Betray is that there is just better Betray targets. And as much as it kills me inside to say it, and I want the card to get deleted, like, you would rather play Balmora Spymaster.
Yeah, most of the time, yeah.
I mean, if you really wanted, like, a good Spell Sword Betray, and you're trying to play, like, a Chanter Spell Sword that's running Rising of Bones, then maybe. Maybe this fits.
I can see that. I do like Rising of Bones. I think Rising of Bones is a fairly good card.
I think it's a great card.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it sees as much play as it could. I guess would be the best way I could put that.
I've actually seen a fair amount of it lately. I have no idea why. It's been showing up in Telvanni more and more as a way for people to get rid of Cat Spas and Spymasters. Because the Cruel Fire... Basically, I see it in Telvanni's that if they're running Cat Spa and they're not running Altar, I've seen people running Rising of Bones instead.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess it's about as good as we all thought it would be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next up we have Green Pact Ambusher.
Contingently good, right? There are some certain situations where it's great, and then there's all the other decks people are playing it in right now.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that it's 100% better than the Orc, like some people claim. Like, there are aggro decks where if you want to run the Orc, I think that the Orc could be better. Prophecy Battle Mage might be the best example I can think of. I would much rather prefer a 4/1 that I can hide in the Shadow Lane than maybe getting to play this for free, but being stuck with this having guard. Also, the thing that's cool about the card can be a drawback. I ran into that the other night. I had somebody who kept it in their hand, and then I flooded a lane like as a control player, and it made it jump out of their hand, and so...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
I guess I didn't realize until I played it for the first time that it was not optional. The summon if the lane is full thing.
Yes, it is not optional. It forces it out of your hand if you meet the requirements. So...
Right.
I think during my review video, I said that most decks that were running Protector of the Innocent would consider running this, and I think that's a fine assessment. You want a Prophecy Guard to help you survive the early game. If they're flooding a lane and you get to play it for free, even better. But I don't think that this is like slap this into aggro decks like I've been seeing.
I agree. Really cool ability. Really good in unstoppable rage decks. Or at least potentially good. Something that people are going to have to learn to play around, but not format changing, meta defining, just a good piece in some puzzles.
Let me ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
Do you think this is good in rage decks because it's good in range decks? Or do you think it's good in rage decks right now because people are already just not playing around rage? Because you would think that the 2 and 2 would be the opposite of going hand in hand, right? Like if I'm playing against a rage deck, I feel like I shouldn't want to overload a lane because I'm just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
And yet...
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before the show started, right? Like, people are just not playing around Unstoppable Rage right now. At least, you know, people between ranks 5 and 3, which is what I've seen. And so, this card is great. Because it lets you go in, it lets you blow people out with a Rage way sooner than you would expect to be able to. But it's generally, like, not, like, Magical Fantasyland kind of card.
This is also surprisingly good with Apex Wolf, Justin and I have found, because if Apex Wolf hits this, one, in rage decks, it gives you like Ravenous Hunger 2.0, but two, if your Apex Wolf hits this and then somebody does overload a lane, this thing jumps out of the hand at the end of the turn and can attack right away, so it basically becomes like kill a creature, gain 4 life. Yeah,
it's really strong with Apex Wolf, which is a card I'm really eager to discuss, actually.
Well, that's close to the end, naturally.
That makes sense.
So after Ambusher, we have Harmony.
Yeah. Well, we kind of touched on this already.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that the card is, like, good in this meta, though it's funny, on a couple of Discord servers, I've seen some people who were saying that they were playing it and actually having great results against lethal creatures. They were saying, like, hey... If somebody's playing Fighters Guild Recruits, if they're playing Sanctuary Pets, they were playing Harmony in... like one person, for example, was playing Harmony in a mage deck that was also running like Executes and Grizzly Gourmets, and they were like, hey, it activates those, but it's been a godsend against lethal creatures, which I thought was actually pretty interesting.
That is interesting. It's... the power level is there. Right, but what it actually does is not good in every matchup, right?
No, this has the potential to be a very dead card, so it is not...
I haven't played Arena since the set came out, and I'm going to intentionally draft yellow to try to grab a copy or two of it so that I can feel it out there, because I have this expectation that it's going to be amazing.
I mean, Prophecy's always good in Arena. Turns out smaller deck sizes means Prophecy is a whole lot better.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you draft 3 Prophecy cards in your Arena deck, 10% of your deck is Prophecies.
Yeah, math checks out, yeah.
So, after Harmony, we have Sword of the Inferno.
Yeah. Sword of the Inferno is really good.
Yeah. I mean, we you and I were both kind of all in on this one anyway, but it turns out we were right. It's been... performing as expected in every deck I've tried it in so far.
It's good in decks where it's not good. I mean, the card itself is just good, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to build around it, although, like, you know, take it into consideration when building a deck that you might want to actually be able to use this. But it's really, really solid. And it doesn't do nearly enough for Wounded Warrior to make that deck a thing, but, like, it is still good in all sorts of other decks.
You know what? I lost to this, and some people said that they saw Dust go on an insane run with it. It's been helping out Slay, like, Ramp Warrior.
Yeah, I actually
pretty insanely. It turns out this card is very, very good on Falkreath Defiler.
Exactly. Because it's better than Crossbow.
Even if it's killing the Defiler, because then you get to res 2 things, because the Slay self-triggers.
I know. I learned that on stream, actually, when I killed my own Morag Tong Aspirant.
Yeah. Turns out it's also amazing on Blood Magic Lords and things like that in that deck as well. So Slay Ramp Warrior, like, look out. That's kind of a thing. It's great in Battle Mage. I've seen
Yes.
some people use it very successfully as predicted on Breton Conjurer.
I agree. Aeolus disagrees. Aeolus has an amazing clip out there playing Wounded Warrior and getting some Horker lethal. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Raging Horker is majestic. Raging Horker gives me a Raging Horker.
That makes sense. Celine has joined us, by the way.
Hello, Celine.
Yes, she's good.
Celine is a Twitch superstar. She has her own emote and everything.
She does. You know, now that there's 3 cats in the house, like, she's demanding more attention.
So yeah, the short version is Sword is amazing. We all kind of thought it would be after seeing it. It's enabling a bunch of different decks. This one actually might be another one that could theoretically qualify as a build around card. But again, like, it's enabling other decks,
Right.
but you are kind of building around getting to trigger this too. Also,
Good.
Just real quick, if you guys haven't seen it, Galen on this thing is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. I feel like everybody on the planet forgets that you can Galen items.
Yeah, you can Galen items, and it essentially makes it so that the self-wounding thing, well, it still matters in the Wounded Warrior, but for your Slay deck variants, it's even better.
Right. Yeah, so what I like about it too is that it doesn't prop up existing decks. I mean, here's the thing: it props up existing decks, but it isn't good in any of the tier 1 stuff necessarily. That was, you know, it's not great in Aggro Warrior. It's not great in Halalu. Although it's not great in the Halalu deck we were seeing, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I mean, mid BM is like the closest thing, right,
Yeah.
to the high tier deck that it's helping.
Yeah.
So after Sword of the Inferno, we have Shadow Marking.
Shadow Marking is a really, 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 really strong card.
Yeah, this is also just like the Sword doing exactly what Justin and I thought it would, which is super enabling combo decks.
Right. It is really, really good. It digs deeper than anything that costs the same amount. Camel digs equally deep, but nets you less cards. Although Camel's better in some circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, you can't resurrect Shadow Marking with your Necromancer, but
right.
Camel also leaves you open to Piercing Twilight because you have to discard the other cards.
Right.
So CVH actually had some pretty good results with Shadow Marking in place of Gambler. He was running Shadow Marking in a basically Charger, right? Like, if you're not familiar, I used to run a deck called Charger, just a bunch of charge creatures in Archer, and then ways to buff them. He said he went like 7-0 with it. It's kind of insane.
That makes sense, yeah.
But Shadow Marking's good in Abomination.
Mm-hmm.
It's good in a lot of things. I'm planning on giving it a whirl in Market Archer.
Yeah, I think it's undoubtedly good in Market Archer. I have to say, like, I have had a lot of fun with Abomination since this set dropped.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah, so Shadow Marking, good.
Yes.
We expected that.
Also, very capable of memes.
Yeah, very capable of memes. Justin and I were talking about some stuff that I wanted to do with that card for like a meme before we went live, so that'll be fun.
We will get to that, yeah. We will both do really degenerate things with that card.
Yeah. So after Shadow Marking, we have Piercing Twilight, which is a bit of a controversial one because I've already heard some people saying that it like ruins all of their fun and it's too strong, and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I've heard people say it's too strong, and I've heard people say it's unplayable. I
think it's in the middle.
I think it's a very valuable card that sometimes is going to be really good, and most of the time is not.
Yeah, to me, this is almost on the same tier as Harmony in that it's very good in some matchups and very mediocre in others.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, I mean, it's a really good like control buster if you're in a control mirror.
Yeah, I
think that is the best use for it. The reason I don't think it's as good in other decks, just for example, right? Like I had somebody say to me like they wanted to play it in mid-range sorcerer so that they could like remove a javelin from the opponent's discard pile, and then they don't have to worry about javelins anymore. Okay, like, great, but one, they're not going to javelin you on curve, so that means you're not playing this card on 4. And 2, if they've already played a javelin, they've nuked something amazing of yours already. Right. You know? You're already likely behind at that point, because they're playing hard removal and you're playing sorcerer, and that's already a bad matchup for you, and so now you have to play an understated creature not on curve to make it so that you're not as annoyed. Like, it just doesn't feel correct in those scenarios.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The body's nice. The body's, you know, acceptable.
Sure, but I mean, like, if you're looking to play something on curve and you're just okay with a 4/4 guard and it's a deck like mid-range sorcerer or BM or whatever, then like Dress Renegade's almost always going to be superior, because then you can negate shackles that your opponent sets up, right? So you can stop those sanctuary pets and harpies. You can maybe run Vigilant Giant. Like, there's just, I don't know, I feel like there's better cards for curve-based decks to run in place of Twilight. And so if you're not playing Twilight in those decks, then you're playing it in control, and then you have to say, like, okay, if I'm playing this card in control, what does it help me with? Helps you against control matchups, right? Because those are going to be long, typically anyway, like long attrition wars. But like against aggro, you're not going to win because you made it so they didn't draw the rest of their Ash Berserkers, right? Like, they still got a million ways to draw cards.
I mean, like, you're almost always right. Right, but I mean, there are corner cases where that chipping away at their card pool is going to matter.
Sure.
You know, I mean, like if in a, I mean, I know you already brought up control mirrors, but I think even in mid-range mirrors, the ability to, say, get rid of a, like, hit the first moose or something like that could be relevant. I mean, like, I can think of situations.
Yeah, I mean, we can all think of it, but I guess my point is those are the 5% things, right? Like, you don't put decks or cards in your deck because of your 5% edge case scenarios. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is you put cards in your deck because you're trying to hit the most consistent scenarios that are presented to you, because that's what like you want to deal with. And like, can I come up with situations where Piercing Twilight would be awesome? Sure, I can come up with a lot of things. I'm a very imaginative person, but that doesn't make it right.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So
you don't, but Justin does. I'm lost.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing a bunch of weird things in chat. Like, is Justin's box longer? Probably. Justin's always longer than me, Kappa. Some people are talking about Twilight and saying, like, it hurts decks that filter. Taking out Viper is nice, too. I mean, it does hurt decks that filter, but unless they used Camel and, like, as part of their filter had to put a combo piece in there, then all you're doing is taking away the stuff they didn't want anyway. You know what I mean? This card does hurt Conscription if you can get it to trigger multiple times, because in my opinion, I don't think it... Like, you can play it on a Conscription, and that can, in an edge case, win you the game, right? But that means you have to have already survived one Conscription, or they had to have a really shitty choice and discard one. I
was telling Derek before the show started, by the way, like, I have Piercing Twilighted Conscription and still lost.
Yeah, right? Like, that happens.
Yes. No, on the flip side of this, though, is that the deck I was playing was really, really bad. But yeah, possible.
But
it's good against Necromancer.
Yes, I think it's great against Necromancer if there are annoying toolbox stuff. You know what this card needed to be printed against, but we just don't see it anymore? Back when Scout was rampant. Because if you take out a bat, right? If you take out Giant Bat, old Scout had a significantly harder problem.
I mean, like, once Scout took out Histgrove, it used bats to win the game against Tribunal and Mage. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
You win.
So
almost certainly. You should be able to play that match to fatigue as long as you can cast in a time their Parthenax.
Right. But now, you know, most modern Necromancer decks treat Necromancer as like a tutor of sorts. It's a toolbox. So you can take out, you know, Vipers, but then you still have to deal with Sanctuary Pet. And then you can take out Sanctuary Pet, but you still have to deal with Harpy, right? Like, they got a number of ways to slow you down.
Black Hand Messenger. I mean,
And so like in chat, you know, Toker, Sea City Toker says every deck you play against has an optimal target you can take out win conditions, which is true. But as I said, if it's in the discard pile, they've either been incredibly unlucky or you have to have already survived their win condition and then played this. Right?
Yeah.
So like that's the difficulty. And this doesn't just magically make the match won for you is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it can't help you win. I'm just saying that this card isn't likely the reason you're winning. It's also because you survived.
I think it's more likely to win you a game because it's a 4/4 guard for 4.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, is not unreasonable. It's not great, but it's not unreasonable.
Yeah. So after piercing Twilight, we have Death Hound.
Yeah. I mean, it's not memey enough. Would be my first reaction to this card.
I've had some people. I have not played it yet personally, but I've had some people report some pretty decent success in like Self-Silence Warrior and Self-Silence Scout.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's a big 6/6 body for 5, and then after it takes some damage or whatever, if you silence it, the attack just goes right back up because it negates the effect and you can still swing like a truck.
Sure, yeah. That makes sense. That checks out. It's just not good enough, though. Not that it's terrible, but it's not... I don't know.
It's on my list of memes that I want to try at some point.
It's like it's competitively costed I can imagine situations where it's really good, but it's also not funny enough. Like, I guess that's my biggest complaint. The more I think about it, like, I'm just disappointed that it's not quite memey enough.
Yeah, but this is coming from a guy that like loves High Hrothgar. This is just High Hrothgar on a body.
High Hrothgar is one of my favorite cards.
Right. So like I don't understand why you dislike this. It is because it's not hard enough to assemble. Like, is that legitimately your?
I don't know, man. Like, it is. I mean, it's a permanently ring of imaginary magic creature, but like, I don't know. To be fair, I have not actually played this one yet, and I have not seen it played against me.
Yeah, I haven't seen it played against me yet either. I was just going by what some people had reported in various places that I chat about the game. So,
oh, of course, I like it, but you know, it's not cool enough.
Gyro Captain in chat says Justin wants it to have 1 health. And I agree. I think if this was a 1-drop that was a 1/1 that had that text, you would be all over it.
I'd Voltron the shit out of this card, dude.
You would be running this thing with maple shields so that you could drop your entire opening hand just to have, like, you know, a 10/10 1-drop.
All day. All fucking day would I be doing that. It'd be glorious. I'm getting a Raging Horker, actually, just thinking about it, to steal a lot of rays from you.
I really need to, like, make Raging Horker an emote or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking about making a moose emote. I actually, like, I don't know that I have enough ideas for all the emote slots I have.
Hit me up. I'll give you ideas. I got plenty of Justin-friendly ideas.
I need 7 more.
That's easy. That is easy. So after Deathhound, we have Destruction Tutor.
The worst card in the set.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
Because it's really only usable in like 1.5 archetypes, if you can call the difference between Action Assassin and Action Mage like a difference, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it played in Action Mage. Sure, but like I don't think it did much to really improve it, and it's performing exactly the way I thought it was going to, which is you play it and then it sets up like a finishing move the next turn if it goes unanswered, and you've got a handful of actions. Yeah. But
could be interesting in the future. It's a card you always got to watch for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we're not there today. But I can imagine a world where this is a staple.
Yeah, as I said, all they need to do is if they print a card, whether it's a creature or a support or even an item, if they print anything that says, like, when you play an action, draw a card, this card goes from, like, most disappointing card in the set to potentially one of the best. Like, that's literally all it needs to say. It could be a 7-cost support that says nothing else other than when you play an action, draw a card, and it would make this card insane.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's you know, it's a build around that doesn't have enough for payoff for building around. I do feel like, and I made some custom cards. Actually, I made a custom card that looks a lot like this called Alteration Tutor. But it's a custom card that, like, how do I put this? Oh, what I was gonna say was, I think it's inevitable that we get, when we get the other 5 3-color houses, which I also think is inevitable. There will be an action, like, set, an action class. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Like, it wouldn't shock me if when we get the blue, green, yellow combination, if that's not somehow pretty action focused. Yeah. Like, if I was gonna pick one to expect, I would pick that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I do like that archetype's continuing to see support. Like, I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. I have nothing against it. It's
just not interesting.
Yeah. After Destruction Tutor, we have Torval Extortionist.
So the most obvious card, like the most straightforward card in some ways, but although, like, it does present a ton of options while being played.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah, I was gonna say, like I said, this is your Bleak Coast troll of the set, in my opinion. It's a ball of stats with an upside slay, just like Bleak Coast troll was, a ball of stats with an upside slay. I know some people are having a lot of fun with the slay on this as a bit of a meme, right? And that's cool, but I still don't think you build your deck around this slay. I think that you build your deck around the 7 attack on this, and then the slay is like a consolation upside.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The meme potential, though, is exponential. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like, it's possible you do insanely cool stuff with this card. It's just not super likely.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, if you want to live the dream, right? You're talking about, Night Mothers flooding lanes so that you can staff a Sparks on this bad boy and then play everything under the sun. Or excuse me, not Night Mother, but whatever the other. There's one expensive. Anyway, the point is, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like, Rage is a pretty common one, right? Like, you Unstoppable Rage and net a bunch of Magicka.
Unstoppable Rage is the obvious one. We've talked about giving it Ward and Lethal and then crossbowing things down.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like this is like a bone being thrown to people, but like this, I feel like this is actually one of the least, the most shallow of the cards, I guess, would be my best way to put this.
Yeah, I mean, the use that I have, the best use of the card that I have personally had thus far is it's a 10-point life gain with Monk's Drake. Because like I said, to me, I think the real value is this is a 7 attack creature. Agility hasn't really had high attack statted creatures that we're seeing play, I guess I should say, right? They have them, but they weren't seeing play before. So this was like a boon to Monk.
It was in the color pie. It was in the color pie, obviously, but hadn't been explored.
Yeah. So turns out this with Monk Strike and Swift Strike is pretty good.
But, like, by virtue of existing, though, I mean, like, it does encourage people to play mid-range decks, which is nice. But, like, mid-range had been conspicuously, absent for a while now.
Yeah, that's fair. Despite all of my, daily mid-range sorcerer updates, Kappa.
That's an aggro deck, bro.
Nah, that's not the one I play. Listen. I don't think you can say that any deck running Worm King's Agent is aggro, right?
Yeah.
I stand by that.
I mean, like, it's a bad aggro deck. No, I'm just kidding. No, you're right, dude. You're right.
So Pete Crichton says, I think Extortionist could be good in mid-Daggeth. I'm going to do some testing with it there, but I actually think that it competes with Blood Dragon for that spot. Because 5 is actually a heavily contested Magicka slot in mid-Daggeth because you've got Brynjolf and Hand of Daggeth, and I think the drain's important. You got Cliff Racers, and like if I'm playing mid Daggeth, I think that the 5/7 and ability to like fly all over the board and ignore guards ends up being more useful than the 7/5, because when I play mid Daggeth anyway, I'm fighting hard for the board to make sure that I'm stabilizing, because I play it like a true mid range deck, not like go face. There is no mid-grow in my world. Mid-grow is a lie, people. It's aggro or it's mid.
I mean, it's a good card. It's a good card. The power level is there, like like by virtue of the stats.
Yeah.
The stat line, yeah.
And then we're on to.
I have to say, I love that they got, Dragon Tamer Blade to reveal that card, right? Because that guy's put more hours into Slay Scout than like anybody else on the fucking planet, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like that was the perfect syncing of card revealer and card revealed.
Apex Wolf. We're there. We're down to the last two, and I think they're the two most interesting anyway. So
yeah, Apex Wolf. Okay, like start off by saying significantly better than most people expected it to be.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. But it also could be, I'll be honest, right? It could be inflated results because people are not used to playing around it yet, and because I have personally been running into a lot less aggro because I think everyone else is testing new decks.
Yeah.
I don't know like how well Apex Wolf is going to perform if it's constantly running up against like Warrior or Halalu or whatever, but so far early returns are showing that the Apex Wolf is at least better than I thought it would be.
It's fair. Very fair.
I don't know if it'll stick around long term, but it does some interesting stuff.
It draws a card. Like that's it, man. It draws a fucking card. Like that's why it's good. Like the breakthrough, the drain, it's funny, but it draws a card.
Yeah, the draw card is kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal. That's why it's good.
Everything about Apex Wolf that's good is in the last gasp ability.
Yeah. The fact that it also has breakthrough and drain, interesting, sometimes relevant, right? Adding an additional playable willpower drain creature to the meta is significant in some ways. But it's just, that's not why it's good, like really good, It's good because it draws a card.
Yeah. And sometimes gives Odaving breakthrough and drain.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I still feel like there's a lot of meme potential with this because it will always draw a creature, right? Maybe in the future, 5 sets down the road when we have a meme dream of like an all-action deck that just runs like Apex Wolves and then one creature you want to draw, you could do something silly.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, actually, that's on my list. We're talking about our list of things to do. It's Stealer of Secrets Mage. That card's just straight upgrade to that deck.
Yeah, helps you find the pieces.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm trying to think of other times you would want to use it,
Yeah.
I mean, it's great when it gets Bog Lurcher, as we've found.
I did that the very first game I played with it.
Yeah. Because then you don't have to worry about finding your improvised weapon, right? Like, it just gets breakthrough.
Yeah. It felt so good, man. It felt so good. I like your Stay Hydrated bot, by the way.
Yeah, it's actually not mine. It showed up on my channel once, and it just, like, sometimes it will post, and other nights it doesn't. So
wait, this is like a rogue fucking bot?
Yeah, this is not my bot. If you guys have never been by my Twitch stream, sometimes, it's not always there, but sometimes I'll get messages from a Stay Hydrated bot, and it'll tell me how long I've been live and how much water I should have been consuming during that time to make sure I'm staying hydrated. And it's funny because I always have this big bottle of water here, right? So I'm usually staying hydrated anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not mine.
This is not my bot. That is hilarious, by the way. This is not my bot.
It's not my bot. So after Apex Wolf, we have the Moose.
Hold on, Elon Musk tried to warn us we didn't listen, City Tucker says. I like that. That's good.
Wilds Incarnate. The Moose. The Elk. The Deer. The
Amazing.
Buck.
I'm not going to say meta-defining, although right now, I think if you're not playing around it, you're not playing the game very well.
Yeah. It is... I mean, it's good. It's as good as I thought it would be. It's very, very good in mid-range decks that don't run strength.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was what I said in my review video. If you're running a mid-range deck and it does not have strength in it, you probably want to run Moose. Because you've never had access to Jarl before, but now you basically have a version of Jarl, and in my opinion, I think this is just flat out better than Jarl anyway. The 5/6 guard has actually won me multiple games just by being a 5/6 guard. I've won some games in Sorcerer where in the past I would have run like Bone Colossus or Worm King's Agent, and instead, because I had just a vanilla 5/6 guard, I won as a result. Like, it's a really solid card.
It's remarkably strong.
And in the matchup, so this is interesting to me, right? In the matchups where you're not going to get the trigger, you kind of have to say to yourself, it's really the second Moose that punishes you, right? Like, I was telling Justin before, you lose one card drawn per rune lost, but if you're losing runes, then you got cards from your runes anyway, so you should already have additional resources. So... Because that used to always be like the thing about Jarl. This is something Turquoise Link used to always say, right? In the times where you have Jarl and you don't want to play him, it's probably because you're behind or getting pummeled and you don't have the health lead, but you've got a bunch of cards anyway because somebody broke your runes. And the same thing holds true for Moose, right? If you're not drawing for Moose, you've drawn at least 2 bonus cards already. So the first Moose... you've kind of already got value out of because your opponent had to break your runes to prevent Moose value. So it's really the second Moose that starts to punish you. And then even still, you get a 5/6 guard, which is a hell of a lot better than that vanilla 4/4 Jarl for 6.
Yeah, it's almost always better than Jarl. Not always, but almost always.
Yeah, almost always.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like we were saying earlier. Like, cards are situationally good, but the number of situations where Incarnate is better than Jarl is... high, in my opinion.
Yeah, very high. It's exciting. It's fun. It's a beautiful card too, which I think is like something that doesn't get like said enough about cards. It's a beautiful card. Also,
the animation is fantastic. Let me say, if you have not seen them in action yet, the animation for Sword of the Inferno and the animation for the Wilds Incarnate, both of those are top notch. I'm a big fan of those 2 animations.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moose is the card to think about all the time right now.
Yeah. Artist X in chat asks, would you play both? And so I assume he's talking about Jarl and Wilds. I personally wouldn't. So, first of all, like, if you're playing Strength, you're probably not playing Jarl anyway. You're probably playing Ash Berserker. But I don't think you play both because you never want a scenario where you're playing Jarl on 6 to draw 2 cards and then playing Wilds on 7 to just draw 2 cards. Like, you want to draw cards and then refill the board and keep your pressure going. Cards that I would play with Wilds, though, and I've already done a little bit of testing with it. I was playing a version of Mid-Monk that was running 2 Wilds Incarnate and 2 Golden Saints, because they do different things, right? So Golden Saint is, instead of drawing you cards, giving you board presence, which is also important. But I also think that it's important to distinguish the difference between, like, strength decks that run Jarl typically don't have a lot of ways to get health back. And so it's all about the, like, you get ahead and then it keeps you ahead. Golden Saint is more forgiving in Monk because you can be behind but land a big Monk strike to go ahead and then still get your Golden Saint value. So, like, it doesn't share the same, like space as the moose. So
Yeah.
there are some like health lead cards that I would play with Incarnate, but Jarl isn't one of them, personally.
I agree.
So what's your favorite moose moment so far?
Queuing into Tribunal every time.
Because you know you're about to draw a lot of cards and eat javelins.
Yeah, just every time. I mean, like, there are certain matchups you just like. I've kept it on the mulligan actually, when I knew someone was doing something, because it's that good. It's it's changed the way I approach games. I just assume everyone's running moose, so I'm more aggressive than maybe I would otherwise be.
Yeah, that's actually why I wanted to ask you specifically, because I saw you tweet something and I thought it was an interesting take, which was your tweet about East March Crusader.
Yeah, I think if you're running a yellow deck that also runs moose, like, you should play in a manner where running East March Crusader in your deck, no matter how slow or fast your deck is the right thing to do. And you'll be rewarded as such. I mean, like, I think it's part of like, it's just a grander idea to encourage like games to continue to be like played.
Yeah.
Like, not, you know what I mean? Like, we're discouraging people from passing the turn without doing anything. And I think East March Crusader belongs in every deck with yellow with moose in it, and you should play in a way that makes it effective. Yeah.
So Cookies and Cash in chat asks, how good is moose in decks without a lot of life gain? I'm going to be honest. Really good. So like I've seen in right away, No Duck says, for example, like a token mage. Yeah, I've actually seen a token mage play moose against me. It's going to be a YouTube video later this week. This is actually I'm kind of like spoiling it, so you can look for this next week. I don't know what day it's going to come out, but I got a video I recorded where I'm playing Sorcerer that has moose in it. Right? And instead of Worm King or Bone Colossus, I'm running Moose. And outside of Barrow Stalker, I just don't have life gain. And my opponent was playing Token Mage, which I think outside of Bruma Profiteer, they didn't have life gain. But Moose was incredibly impactful on both sides of the board. So if you're playing like a mid-range or in some cases aggressive decks that aren't strength-based, like Token Mage, Moose is, if you're playing against control, going to draw you cards. And if you're not playing against control and you're playing against an opponent who's hitting you in the face, sometimes playing a 5/6 guard is really good there, right? Like if you're behind, you want cards that will help you when you're playing from behind, and fat guards will do that. Will it do it all the time? No. Other players will have removal, other players will have silences, but sometimes it will be really, really helpful. And that's the same case with Sorcerer. Sorcerer is the kind of deck that always has great on-curve stuff, but outside of like Tome from Daggerfall Mage, you just don't have a lot of card draw. Like that's always been the drawback for Sorcerer. But if you're playing the Moose and you're against control, specifically something like Tribunal, that's always been a difficult matchup for you, right? Because it's like you play a ward, you play Daggerfall, they negate it. You play a Bleak Coast, they Edict of Azura, right? They always do these 1-for-1s. You've got no way to get ahead of the control player because you're giving them cards when you break runes, and they're never breaking your runes, so you never catch up. Right. The Moose in that scenario is what pushes things back in your favor. If they don't break your runes and they keep answering your threats, you can play a big 5/6 body that draws you 2 cards, and they have to answer the 5/6 body, so it likely eats one of those javelins. Like Bone Colossus used to be the go-to finisher against control decks for Sorcerer. There are going to be some scenarios, right? Again, everything is situational. There will be some scenarios where Bone Colossus is better, but overall across the board for Sorcerer, I think Wilds of Incarnate is significantly better than Bone Colossus. I would much rather take 2 cards than 3/1/1s, and the 5/6 having a guard is far better than the 5/5 that does nothing. There's a reason that's like the joke with Bone Colossus is he's Bone Daddy, but sometimes he's Hand Daddy because he sits in your hand because you never want to play him against aggressive decks. That's not the case.
Does nothing to the board.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think your deck needs to run life gain. This is my long-winded answer to say. I don't think your deck needs to run life gain for you to run Moose.
Yeah, I agree. It's just really good.
It's just really good.
It's exciting, man. I love this fucking game. I really love this fucking game. I have to say, 5 minutes ago I started playing a game of Legends while we were doing the podcast.
Shocker, I know.
Yeah, and I'm playing mid-tribunal with Altmer Dragon Knight. My board right now, it's turn 6 against Warrior. My board right now is Windkeep Spellsword, a Barrowstalker, an 8/7 Altmer Dragon Knight, a 5/4 Altmer Dragon Knight. My opponent's a 15. And it feels fucking great.
So even though we didn't say it, I think we've probably unofficially shifted to the like question and answer part. So Gyro Captain asks, is Moose good in mid Battle Mage? What are your thoughts?
Battle Mage actually feels like the one class that could run Moose that I don't want to run Moose in. I'll be honest, like mid Battle Mage is like one of my least favorite decks in the world to play. I've played it a few times. I'm not by any means an expert with it. But like that deck, it feels to me like a deck very dependent upon drawing certain things in certain points in the game. And an early Moose stuck in your hand in that deck could be bad. Could be really bad.
Yeah.
Whereas you want your expensive stuff that's drowning in your hand in the early game to at least have some impact when you play it. And like Cradle Crush Giant, like mulliganing into it when you don't have the ring is not a great feeling, but at least it might do something when you play it on turn 6.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, and there's a couple of reasons why. First, this goes back to the, I think Moose is best in non-strength decks. So if you're playing mid-Battle Mage, you've already got potentially, like, Tome draws off of Daggerfall, but you also have Ash Berserker. And then on the top end, right, if you're talking about expensive card draws, some versions run Vigilant Giant still as well, right? And the 8/8 guard and drawing one card is that's not conditional is probably still better than the Moose. But the other reason, specifically with mid Battle Mage, I'm going to say I don't think it fits there is that the other 7 drops that are traditionally run in mid Battle Mage are very important, and you don't want to crowd your 7 slot. I think Mighty Conjuring and Belligerent Giant, because of the roles that they fill, are just better. And in all honesty, I think it's the same reason why I don't run it in mid Dagoth, right? Like I look at the Moose and it, in theory, in mid Dagoth, I think it could be good. But Belligerent Giant in strength-based decks that are like more mid-range or late-game focused, I think is very, very important. It's just like a weird crowded slot. So I say Moose is great in non-strength decks, but the minute strength is part of the equation, I think there are probably better options.
I think that even in the Moose Ader deck that I was playing, I think it's actually possible that Vigilant Giant's better. I don't know that for sure. Like there are definitely a lot of times when like my plan on turn 8 is to rage with that deck because of the way I set it up. But like, and so being a 7-cost card is relevant. But I think that it's possible that it's not right in that deck. And again, it is because it has access to Vigilant Giant.
So Nudux asks, do you ever see Moose as a 3 of?
Yeah, I run it as a 3 of him. And then, well, hold on, I don't remember. I think I run it as a 3 of in... Okay, I run it as a 3 of in mid-tribunal.
Yep, I think it's a 3 of there.
I run it as a... let's see. I run it as a 3 of in Moose Ader, where it's debatable whether or not it should be in the deck at all. And it was a 3 of in my Mill Mage, which is also a trashy deck, but...
Yeah. I think it's for sure a 3 of if you play mid-tribunal or like a mid-mage, right? If it's not like a tempo action-y mage, but like a more traditional mid-mage, I think it's a 3 of there. I think it is conditionally a 3 of in Sorcerer. And I say conditionally because it's based on the meta. The one time, so like right now I'm running it as a 2 of, but the 3rd slot for me is a Mentor's Ring, because Mentor's Ring on a Barrowstalker or some of your ward creatures is really powerful against aggro decks. But if the meta were to shift to being slower and less aggressive, then I would go to a 3rd Moose and not feel bad about it at all. You know, you don't need Mentor's Ring there. You need Mentor's Ring against the aggro decks typically.
Right.
I run it as a 2 of in mid monk. I could see it ran as a 3 of in a mid version of Telvanni or Scout, right? So like mid Telvanni was like mid aggro Telvanni was a thing for a little bit, the last month and a half. I would jam it in there and not feel bad at all, personally, as a 3 of.
I need 30 seconds to go grab something for my diabetes.
Is it your foot? He took his headphones off. He didn't hear me. So yeah, to answer your question though, right? I do think that Moose definitely fits in as a 3 of. Rug Tumpington in chat says, I'm not running Moose in mid-tribunal because I like Mighty Conjuring for 7. Yeah, I could see that. Mighty Conjuring is also fantastic. I think Tribunal, you've got the endurance creatures that hit 5, but it's more challenging in Tribunal than some other classes, I think, to get the 5 attack consistently. Unless you're in Satanine, and I'm always a big advocate for Satanine. Sea-City Toker asks, what are y'all's thoughts on Yellow's ability to set up one-sided trades with cards that null attack like Harmony and Cloud Rest? I mean, in the past, it was considered very, very strong, but where that excels is in metas where you need to make the trades to begin with. So willpower-based decks are great in mid-range metas, because when you're fighting for the board, you want to be able to win trades and not lose stuff. So like, I think it's great, but it's been a while since we've had a mid-range meta, so it just has not been nearly as strong. You're still muted, Justin. Just for the record, I see your lips moving, but...
Mid-range metas are fucking awesome, was my comment.
Oh, yeah. The question was, what are y'all's thoughts on Yellow's ability to set up one-sided trades with cards that null attack like Harmony and Cloud Rest? And I was saying that those excel, in my opinion, most during mid-range metas where you're actually trading and fighting for the board, but we haven't had that in a while.
Yeah, I love those effects. I mean, like, I think it's an important piece of Yellow's, color identity that has never really seen play outside of Cloud Rest Illusionist, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, like I'll be honest. Secretly, for a long time, I've been hoping for some reason to play Monk where Skulk finds Calm. There's just never been a reason to.
I've seen that a few times. I have.
Yeah, but it wasn't good though, right? Like I want it to be good. I don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it.
I mean, people called it like the calm. They would say I'm playing a calm deck,
right?
Like because like it was so memey.
Yeah, like the O cost, right? The 0 cost 1/2 guard. I've actually seen be more successful than finding Calm, because at least you can play like Token Monk.
Yeah, I have seen occasionally Halalu decks that do that.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's right, but I've seen it.
So Gyro Captain asks, do you guys think when the meta settles down, conscription decks will still be so common, or has the set made that card less good? I'll let you start.
I think they'll still be common.
Yeah, I also think they'll still be common, and here's why. For me, I don't think the card's like that great right now anyway. I was ranting about that last night on my stream. The number of times I've actually lost to conscription is incredibly low. It's just that it's a popular deck, right? And this set isn't going to do anything to change that popularity, so it'll still be pretty common. But like when I'm playing aggro or mid-range, I don't lose to conscription. I lose to the Telvanni control package. And you could delete conscription and you could delete Nixox tomorrow, and Telvanni would still be the best control deck. It just has a really good control package, and that's what you lose to. And anytime I'm playing control, I don't usually lose to conscription. I lose to journey. I can survive 1, even 2 conscriptions, no problem. It's the conscription after journey that's always a problem. So
most conscription decks, I can survive 2 conscriptions.
Yeah. So like for me personally, I don't think that the card itself is necessarily like a problem. I think that it's just popular. If it was nerfed tomorrow, like I wouldn't be upset, because honestly, I'm tired of hearing about it, but like I don't think that it's super powerful as much as the other stuff. Like let me say this, right? Like if Journey got nerfed hard tomorrow, conscription would be not good at all. You know what I mean? Like,
I think people would still play it in the exact same percentage that they're playing it today, though.
Sure, but they would have a lot less success with it, though.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I mean,
you and I have been saying for a while now that I think that Journey is like one of the toughest things for control versus control matchups.
Yeah,
because it dictates a lot of wins.
It does. Journey also single-handedly props up Combo Scout.
Yeah.
I do agree that conscription decks are pretty forgiving when it comes to mistakes. I think that's a function, though, of just decks that draw a shitload of cards in general.
Yeah. Well, and I'll be honest,
the curve is also...
It's also typically Telvanni. Like, I have no problems with punishing Retter and Conscription, right?
That deck is more interesting, though, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's more interesting, but it's also, like, way easier to punish. I stand by, like, the reason Telvanni Conscription specifically is popular and forgiving is because the Telvanni control package is very, very good. It cycles well. It has plenty of ways to gain life. You can do it with Blackhand Messenger. You can do it with Amulet. I've seen some people that are still running Giant Bats for some reason. I run into versions that run Brynjolf and Queen Baronzia. Like, it's just got a lot of ways to gain life. It's got a lot of ways to remove things. It's got board sweeps.
It's got versions with Alter.
Yeah, Alter. Like, you can... Like, Telvanni is just very, very resilient as the house. So...
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, so Zombie says, imagine pre-nerf Journey with Conscription today. We don't have to imagine it. We did it. That was one of the first things Justin did when Talia's Conscription was released. Was him and I both said to each other, let's fill a deck with charge creatures and Journey, and then figure out a way to make it so that I can Conscription and swing for like 50 in one turn.
100%. It's one of my top 10 most successful videos, actually. It's got like 10,000 views or some shit. Yeah.
That was one of the first things that him and I said to each other is we were like, oh, hey, because pre-nerf Journey, if you're new to the game and you don't know, pre-nerf Journey did more than just buff the creatures and shuffle them back in. It also reduced the cost of creatures by 5. So you used to be able to play Journey, and then your Conscription would pull out like Underworld Vigilante that was buffed by Conscription.
Awesome.
Yeah. No problems there.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Do you know how insane Abomination Scout would be with pre-nerf?
I mean, it would be good, but like, I don't know, it would be that like dramatically better, right?
Well, because like once you've journeyed, you don't have to worry about Magicka at all.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Because everything in there is 5 or less. Like, you could play Disciples of Namira for free, too. Like, you could literally run through the entire thing flawlessly.
And so many of those games end before that, though, right?
Yeah, probably. Pete Crichton, how was pre-nerf Journey ever considered to be a good idea? Man, I don't know. We had a lot of talks about that.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Here's a fun fact. Talk about, like, sometimes you get card predictions wrong. I don't think there was a single person that said pre-nerf Journey was good when it was revealed.
No, you're totally right. Nobody even talked about that card at all.
Like, CVH said it was bad and too slow. I said it was too slow. Like I'll admit to it, right? Like, I did not see that card as being useful at the time.
I agree.
But in our defenses, right? So things are always conditional, though, right? At the time when it was revealed, we had a lot less cycle, too. It was a lot harder to filter through your deck. Like, it's easy for us to now look at it and go like, well, gee, you know, hey, idiots, how could you get this wrong? Well, back then, like, you weren't filtering through your deck by, like, turn 10 and then replaying everything. Like, on turn 10, you had drawn, like, 2 extra cards or whatever.
Right. the game itself was slower. The cycling was slower. Decks were less consistent. Like most of the card draw you think of as being really playable card draw was introduced recently.
Yeah. So, Noduck says, with how good the new Sword of Inferno is, do you see it making Assassin's Ritual more common or playable in Daggeth?
Assassin's Ritual?
Yeah.
I think Assassin's Ritual is always bad.
I don't know. I'm going to try to make it work. That's on my list for this next week.
I don't know, man.
I think if it's ever playable, it's in Daggeth specifically, because being able to reward Breton Conjurer or something like that is attractive, and then using Sword for triggers. But I don't know if it's going to be good enough, but I think that in Daggeth, if it's doable, it'll be that.
Fair enough.
So, Psycho asks, did Journey become better because control decks became stronger?
That's a tough one to answer. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think it's still much more tied to the cycle.
Okay.
Like, control decks were great back then, but like you had to go to like turn 20 or 30 before you even considered playing Journey back then.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just weren't, like Merchant's Camel wasn't a staple and you weren't resurrecting it, and we had no like Indorol, and like your card draw back then was like Elusive Schemers and things, right? Like everything was much, much slower. So the idea of I'm going to pay 7 and do nothing and I might get value, right, down the road, it was just it wasn't considered good back then because everything about the game was so much slower. And I think that the more cycle that we got, the more card draw that we got, the more consistency that we got, the better Journey became.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like the only time I played Journey, like legitimately before Forgotten Hero and things like that, the only time I was playing Journey before was when I would get it off of College of Winterhold in Support Mage. And that's because it wasn't in my deck. It was like the game had went so long that I was drawing Journey from College of Winterhold in my Support Mage deck.
No, I agree. I mean, like, that was how you won that mirror.
Yeah.
No, like, I mean, like, I would focus my entire game against that exact inevitability. Because a lot of times Support Mage just didn't have enough damage to kill you.
No. They had no win condition back then, really.
Right. I just lost to fucking Conscription Halalu. I hate playing against Conscription decks. I just have to say that.
Yeah.
It's just not fun, man. It's just not fun at all.
I hate playing against control decks, period.
Nope.
Halalu's an interesting one that I'm surprised doesn't see more Conscription play, because you would think it has all the tools, but...
Another one of my top 10 videos of all time, actually, is a video called Halalu Conscription is the best deck in the game right now, and it came out in June.
Yeah. But that was you playing aggro Halalu that just tacked on conscriptions, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like a dedicated control conscription Halalu list. I'm surprised it doesn't see more play, but again, I think it just comes back to that the Talvani version probably is got a stronger control package. It gains health better.
Yeah, that's fair.
Blackhand Messenger and Necromancer and like the Amulet are just really good stabilization tools.
Yeah.
Nikki P asks a loaded question. What does Spellsword need to be back on top again? Do you want to take that?
Moose. Or the addition of blue.
Yeah, I was going to say, Spellsword was never on top. Like, it needs something to make it there first.
Right. It was a deck we all played in August of 2016.
Yeah, like you played Spellsword tokens, and it wasn't even the best deck then. It was just the most popular. There's another great example of popularity versus power level.
It's funny too. Like, it featured what would now be, like, even now, would be one of the most powerful cards in the game, which is pre-nerf Divine Fervor.
Yeah, Divine Fervor used to cost 4.
Yes. It's remarkable to think of that, actually.
And it still wasn't good enough back then, because everything else was pre-nerf as well.
Right. Like, certain things were really, really busted.
Really busted. Nodux asks, Justin, are you excited about a new way to put Lich's Ascension in your opponent's hand?
100%, man. Look for that video in the next 2 weeks. It's gonna fucking happen.
Shannara says, Token Spell Sword, when Fervor cost 4, it was on top. No, it wasn't on top. It was the most popular deck, Shannara, because it was very easy to build on a budget.
Actually, you want to know what the guy playing, what the guy who was Legend Rank 1 was playing that when that deck was huge? That guy was playing Ramp Scout.
Yeah.
Because it was me.
Yep. Yeah, it's Token Spell Sword.
It had an amazing Token Spell Sword matchup.
Yeah. Token Spell Sword was never really on top back then. It was popular because it was a very easy deck to build on a budget, but Scout, Control Mage, and Archer were much better.
And in fact, the popularity of that deck is why Ramp Scouts back then sometimes ran Charis Reaper.
Even Archer back then. There was Archer builds, believe it or not, when the game first launched in the open beta, the most popular Archer build on any of the deck sharing websites ran Charis Reaper and Falinesti Reaver.
Yeah. It was TVP 9's list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like really that meta was dominated even back then by Ice Storm and Burn and Pillage. Like
it was, yeah. Like the things that we were playing were outliers.
So Pete Creighton says, have you experienced the ranking up bug where it can put you down a rank again if you don't reach the 2nd star?
So I didn't lose when that happened to me. Like I went 1 star past the end of rank 5, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And chat was like, oh, like it happens, like you'll be fine. And I was like, well, what happens if I fucking lose this next game? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it, like, you'll be fine. And I ended up winning it, but like later I heard that when you lose, you fucking go back.
Yeah,
I was
gonna say the same thing. Like I know it's a thing, but it hasn't happened to me yet because I just like kept winning.
What rank are you right now?
I think I'm 4.
Okay.
Because I basically only played last night after the new month has started or whatever.
Yeah.
So I got there last night playing mid-monk after failing with some memes.
You were trying. I know I saw you playing Spell Sword. I lost to Santos Vela actually on the ladder yesterday when he was playing Spell Sword.
Yeah, I tried Spell Sword. It didn't go super well. I'm not saying that it's not good. Like I've heard other people have great success. I had a pretty like rough set of variants. Same thing with the Rage Crusader. Like you had great success, and then I tried playing it, and I went like 3 and 4. But I was running into like Stealer of Secrets Mage, which is a really bad matchup for Rage Crusader, and like it's the one guy out of like 2,000 people on the ladder playing it, and of course I run into it, right? So
the matchup actually sounds unwinnable.
Yeah, well, it
beat down and they have a horrible draw.
It was completely winnable if I would have drawn. So one difference between mine and yours is I run the Night Mother. And so if I would have drawn the Night Mother, I could have set up like a rage win, but my Night Mother was in my bottom 20 cards of my deck, so...
Yeah, because they wouldn't be able to remove it, necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think they had any... Unless they're running Vicious Drag or, like, Dismantle, they don't have any support removal, so...
That makes sense.
That was my win condition, but it was in the bottom 20 cards of my deck, so...
I like the sound of that. That sounds like it was a good game. I think I probably...
Yeah, it felt really good.
I think when this podcast is over tonight, I'm going to record with Stealer of Secrets. Like, that's one of those videos, Silverfuse is making fun of me for going 3 and 13 and then releasing the 3. Stealer of Secrets videos, decks, that's one I don't feel any shame in going 13 and 3 and then releasing the 3.
Well, yeah.
Because people are there for the experience.
So, Gyro Captain asks, when is Link going to be on the podcast? When he plays the game again, Kappa? No, we've asked him in the past, and then we had some scheduling conflicts.
Yeah,
So,
he's almost been on a couple times.
yeah, he's almost been on a couple times, but then we keep mucking it up.
Yeah.
So,
To
like,
be fair,
that's our fault.
it was only yesterday afternoon when, like, or maybe it was today.
It was today.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, bro, podcast guest," and you're like, "I think you said something about having a fucking moose as a guest."
Yeah, I did say that. I'm a little upset. Apparently, CVH actually streamed today.
Yeah.
Like, why is he streaming and not being a guest on the podcast? We haven't had him on.
We haven't asked him recently.
No, we've been asking him basically since the changeover for devs.
Well, what we asked him was, I can say.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just saying. My point is that we have asked him though. That's what I was saying.
We've tried to get all sorts of cool people on the show, guys. All right.
Yeah. Like I want to get Morgan on. I want to get Peter
really
on.
Morgan is now the top guest that I want to have. I saw a YouTube video actually recently, unrelated to like Legends, had nothing to do with my interest in this game at all, that talked about Morgan. Like he is actually kind of famous in like hilarious ways.
That doesn't surprise me.
Me either, not at all, dude.
No Ducks wants us to get Morgan Freeman. Somehow I think that one's out of our reach.
I think if you gave me a couple of weeks, I could figure out that voice. The penguins cross the road like any other penguin.
Yeah, even 10 minutes ago, CVH is responding to people on Twitter. He could have been on our podcast. He's dead to me.
He retweeted your announcement that we were going live.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding, CVH. I love you. But still.
Probably lurking. I feel like actually... I feel like he's always lurking in the podcast, to be honest with you.
This is a good question. Blackdrop says, I've seen people suggest removing dual color cards from tricolor decks. What do you think about that mechanical change? Also, What do you think of suggestion of forbidding tricolor decks from running neutral cards?
I mean, those are both interesting. They're not as interesting as my personal favorite suggestion, which is just letting them rotate out.
Yeah. Are you ready to like fall asleep while I go on the rant?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
I'm just forewarning you. So here's the problem with suggesting removing dual color cards, right? If you remove dual color cards, you're basically killing tricolor decks. Like, I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, what does Tribunal run? Archcannon, right? Tribunal's entire strength is off of the dual color cards.
Do you think it would run it if it didn't have to?
I wouldn't. You know what? I might, just because it doesn't have a lot of life gain and it's a pretty consistent source of like get drain on a big thing and swing. But there's an argument to be made that it wouldn't even run it if it didn't have to.
Yeah, it's not a bad card, but like it's
Halalu, right? Like, what is it running? Puppeteer. Now that Manor's been nerfed,
right?
You know, like almost all of these are.
Again, I don't think it would run Puppeteer if it didn't have to.
Yeah, maybe not. Right? Like it's one of those. It's one of those things where like the reason that the 75 card deck is worth it is because you make up for having to run 25 more cards by just jamming in the most powerful 25 cards in those color combinations. Right. And by design, the class cards in the sets all prior to Morrowind were the most powerful cards because they were limited to the classes. So if you take that away, then you're essentially getting less powerful cards and a less consistent deck. They would just be done. So if you're going to say you can't run dual colored cards in your tricolor decks and you want to make them even remotely enticing to play, you have to print more tricolor cards to offset that. And if you're doing that, like, well, then the question is like, when do you print them? Right? Are you going to do another like 10 card mini set? Because then they, all get like what, 2 cards? That's probably not enough for me to care and run 75 cards. If you do it during a story expansion, then it's like, all right, what's like, I want to play this for the story and I want new mechanics. Like, why am I doing this just to get like my tricolor cards? And if you wait till the next big pack expansion, well, they're likely going to introduce the other houses at that point. And so if you're thinking to yourself, like, they might get somewhere between 3 and 5 cards for all of the new houses, and then I also need new Tricolor cards from the old ones, and then I also need new Tricolor cards from the new ones again so that they equal the same number. So now we're talking maybe 10 cards of Tricolor. Like, what's the rest of the set going to be? Then you win an entire pack expansion with almost no dual color support again. And, like, that feels bad as well. Plus, like, let's be honest, doing something like that would be a really huge admission that it was a developer mistake. And I just don't think that anyone's going to swallow their pride and do that. But like, as Justin said, the way that it was designed, they can rotate out. So we're still a ways away from it. But at some point, when we have enough expansion sets, they will likely rotate some sets out. And when they do that, if they rotate out Houses of Morrowind, then you don't get to play Tricolor decks, because you can only play a Tricolor deck if you are running a 3-color card. So the minute that those are not part of the playable pool, then you have no Tricolor decks.
And it'll make Legacy or Extended or Wild or whatever the fuck you want to call it, it'll make it a much more interesting format too.
Right.
Like, it has the benefit of like doing really, really interesting things to that format and encouraging people to play it. Which
is something that Hearthstone struggled with when they did their like Legacy format versus their Standard. Whereas Legends will be like, hey, we have this unique thing we can do in only this format.
Right. I actually think it's a huge reason why rotation should happen. You know, is that like you have the benefit of you'll be creating this place where, hey, there's actually 20 classes in this format, or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah.
Gyre Captain says, I think we should just delete Tricolor decks. I mean
can we? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I think I play a lot more 2-color classes still than 3-color.
I mean, I still play a lot of mid-range sorcerer.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, I'm sure that it frustrates people that, like, that's all you see, but I think that it's a bit of the grass is greener moment as well. Like, if I'm being honest, back when we had 2-color classes and we didn't have houses, you kind of saw the same, like, 3 classes or whatever anyway back then. It's not like there was this grand old age of, you know, classes had class identity and they were, like, super well represented. It was about the same level of representation that it is now, right?
Right. No, I agree.
You know, it's not like Spellsword was any more playable or any more popular back when we didn't have 3-color decks, and it's not like, you know.
Well, I mean, so like Spellsword gets a lot of shit. There has been times when like Spellsword was played.
Well, right. Good. Like, I'm just using that as the meme joke, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Like,
I do. I mean,
like before Sower of Revenge, for example, unless you were playing Orc Warrior, like, you just didn't see Warrior as a class. Like, Warrior used to be the old Spellsword. There was a time when Warrior was the laughing stock of Legends.
It was in a worse place than Spellsword.
Yeah.
Because at least a certain Spellsword builds have matchups that they will win 100% of the time. No, the problem is that Spellsword doesn't draw cards, and so it loses control matchups.
Yeah,
and it loses aggro matchups.
So I do think that it's important to put it into perspective that, you know, even if the Tricolor classes went away, it doesn't mean we're going to see like this wide range of diversity or like throwback to a massive amount of like diverse representation. It's just going to be a different level of, like, you'll just see a bunch of Warrior. You know, if we didn't have Tricolor stuff right now, you'd see a lot of Warrior, a lot of Crusader, a lot of Battle Mage, and then some people messing around with other stuff, right? Like,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Malibu Barba says, I like running Tricolor decks, except all 3 colors are purple. That's a man after Justin's Mono Endurance heart.
That's a class, like, I have to go back to something I said one time, which is that, oh man, eventually there'll be enough purple cards that are actually good that this deck will be awesome. It turns out that's not true.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Warrior 7, it's funny, we were just talking about it earlier, just posted on Twitter a list and saying Ramp Warrior is quite fun and good at the moment. Shocker.
I've lost a Ramp Warrior recently.
Yeah, well, it's like, because sort of the Inferno makes all those Slay things hilarious.
Yeah.
Because guess what, guys? Venom Tongue likes the sword as well. Yeah, it kills your Venom Tongue, but you go up 2 magicka from it. So if you guys are wondering like how to turbo ramp in Warrior so that you can play insane things from your hand and then also play Rage, it's Venom Tongue with sword.
I mean, you lose your Venom Tongue. But
yeah, I mean, you do, but like a lot of times in the past, you would play Venom Tongue and get 0 ramp from it. Now I can play Venom Tongue and 1 other card and guaranteed get 2 ramp and kill something. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Thorn Hissmage used to be a 2/5 instead of a 2/4? I know I said that to you the other day, but that more than anything is something that still kind of gives me nightmares when I think about the current meta.
Do you remember when Thorn Hissmage was a 5/5?
Wow. Yeah.
The card's been changed a lot. What's your favorite iteration of that card? The current one?
My favorite is probably the current one because it's the least degenerate, and I don't remember being happy seeing that card like ever in the past. Every time it was played against me, I was angry. So
yeah.
Yeah, I am excited. Like I didn't think that there would be as many decks that I would want to try as there are from such a small set, and that makes me even more excited for Isle of Madness when that eventually hits, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more excited about Isle of Madness than I am about what we've got now. But I have like had a lot of good experiences brewing so far, and like I said, like I'm really jazzed to play Stealer of Secrets Mage tonight. I only got to pull it off once. But Isle of Madness, I mean, like what have we been told about the release date for that?
They kept saying that it was this year, but no date publicly. Q4, I think, is what they kept saying. So, Aeolus asks, she actually put it at you directly. Have you seen the latest post on Reddit? I'm not going to lie and say I'm not completely lost. Probably the answer is no because we're here in the podcast, but no, I haven't seen it. I don't know if Justin has.
What is the post? I'm looking for it.
Zombie Hunter says, it turns out Falkreath Defiler is really good when you set him on fire with a sword. Yeah, I think so.
That's fair. What post am I looking for? I don't know. Like once a day I search the Reddit for mentions of my name. But other than that, I don't know. What am I looking for?
Somebody said Aeola said that they think the post is Justin inspired. Person of Secret says, Nature's Incarnate makes me worried about Isles because it's an inch away from being broken. Somebody says your name is in it, in the whatever this mythical Reddit post is.
I haven't searched for my name yet today.
Why don't you just like search by new?
What?
Is it the new here is the game for me? Whenever I see those things, it's like, why not just try it? I don't know. Okay, here we go.
Listen to my story. This may be my last chance. I come from an alternate universe where I used to play a card game called The Younger Scrolls Legends. It was published by Brad Titsta and developed by a gaming company called Sparky Wolf. The game was okay, not good nor great. I used to play this game religiously and watch streamers like Goldfuse and Ruby Link on Switch. While not watching Switch, I would be watching Gustin Garson videos on MeTube. One day, the unbelievable happened and we had a developer change. Sparky Wolf was gone now, and in its place was a new company called Dire Pants. There were cries of anguish as we saw our game client change. It used to be a bright purple with some pink in it. Now it was brown. It was dull. Fanboys were quick to defend Dire Pants. and they went on a witch hunt for all naysayers. One thing I learned from the Younger Scrolls legend is that love at its extreme becomes an obsession, and obsessions are not healthy. I went back to watch the Apprentice series on MeTube and cringed when Gustin Garson made a remark on how great the community was. Unfortunately, I fell asleep while watching the video and had dreams of how fun the game used to be. When I awoke, I was confused. The Apprentice series on MeTube had changed to the Master series on YouTube. Gustin Garson wasn't there anymore. Instead, I see the same person called Justin Larson casting the show. I panicked and Googled the Younger Scrolls Legends. It came back with no results. However, all was not lost as I saw results for the Elder Scrolls Legends. And here I am. Let me reintroduce myself. I am Pretty Dish. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know, but I love it.
Amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing.
The only way I could be disappointed by this post is if I were to somehow learn that Pretty Dish is actually evil tuna fish.
Oh, dude, that was amazing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh.
Fucking genius. I upvoted it. It didn't come up when I searched for it because he spelled my last name wrong.
Yeah, there was a couple of S's or whatever. Zombie Hunter 9x19 at Tide Pod Bros. I assume that's us. What's your favorite pre-nerf card?
I don't think of cards that I played a lot before they were nerfed that I wish hadn't been changed. Manticore with guard fit into a lot of the decks I played.
Yeah, especially when it killed stuff cross lane.
Yeah. Although actually when it could kill things cross lane, I wasn't playing it. Yeah. I was thinking today actually about how happy I am that Belligerent Giant got nerfed.
Yeah, right? Because that one used to be also pretty belligerent, pun intended, when it could go cross lane.
Right.
I know what I'm about to say isn't going to be popular with Justin, but hear me out. Slaughterfish spawning used to be one that I enjoyed pre-nerf. Mostly because when I saw people playing it, I knew I was about to win. I didn't think it was good pre-nerf, but that also got nerfed and then disappeared.
Yeah. Do you think Slaughterfish spawning would be too strong right now?
I don't personally think so. I don't think it was strong then. Like, you're paying 3 to likely make a 3-1. Like, it's pretty easy to answer at least one of them. Yeah. You know? Especially now when we've got so many ways to have presence on the board that early. Like, No Ducks wants to know what old Slaughterfish was. It used to cost 3 instead of 4. So Slaughterfish spawning used to be a neutral that cost 3. Part of me misses old Gladiator Arena. I know it was basically only played in aggressive decks, but there is some part of me that wishes there was a combo deck or a non-aggressive deck that ever got to utilize that as like its only win condition where it bleeds you to death. I would love to see a card that says like do 1 damage to your opponent whenever they draw a card, like an Underworld Dreams, if you will. I think that would be my favorite way to win the game.
Yeah, I'd play that.
I know you would. I would too. I miss old Nakreen, but I am glad that I never lived in a world where Nakreen was the old Nakreen with Alduin. Like, I'll just say that out loud. I miss 4-1 Schemer as opposed to 3-1 Schemer. I miss here's mine. Here's my official answer. I miss 2-cost Northwind Outposts.
No.
No. What? No. You're not a fan of that, Justin?
I'm not, man. I am not. Not a fan.
If I was gonna be not picking Outpost, I would say maybe Thief of Dreams, honestly.
Yeah, Thief of Dreams is an interesting one. I actually thought about putting in a deck yesterday. I like Thief of Dreams.
Malibu Barbus asks, when is the Legend to Loser series coming back?
That's been my career since 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one's still going.
Yeah, that just happened.
The Loser to Legend series needs to come back, but the Legend to Loser series is the entire channel.
Yeah, so I was waiting for a while for the new client to get all bugged free, and then like around the same time that happened, the expansion came out, and I just sort of lost focus. That's basically the entire explanation for what happened there. But it will come back. Although I hear that Silverfuse is working on a new player guide now as well. And it might just be like, you know, there was a time when like with Legends, like I felt like I had to do all the things all the time. And you know, that was my own like neuroses and personality disorder and shit. And I like what I do with Legends now, you know, like I do my thing. And maybe a new player guide isn't what I should be playing with, like doing with this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. So I can't scroll past this. Person of Secrets in chat says, I don't really buy the whole Dragon Priest limited design space. That was just an excuse rather than a truth. I don't know how... Like, how do you think that was an excuse rather than a truth? Like, making any card... Like, we've all been saying that magical manipulation is one of the most powerful things you can do in the game. There's rampant complaints about things like Nixox and what you can do with Ulfric's Uprising. Like, I cannot fathom a world where old Nakreen didn't limit design space more than Nixox. More than anything else. Like, it let you play whatever you wanted for free, like, it was from your hand. Like, I can't imagine old Nakreen with Uprising. Like, imagine old Nakreen and Nixox today, where every time you Uprising, you also drew a card and got to play something for fucking free. Like, Alduin is what I always say, like, well, clearly they nerfed that because Alduin was coming, but...
Yeah, I wouldn't want that changed back. I don't like anything free. Like, I mean, even though I think Lich's Ascension is a lot of fun, we don't need...
Yeah.
We don't need to cheat to cost on things. I know that exceptions make the rule interesting, but in this case, like, it's a pretty reasonable rule.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a big difference, in my opinion, between, like... So, like, you can do degenerate things with Nixox, but at least there's a cap, right?
No.
There is a cap. It's a mathematical cap. Like, there's a cap.
No, the cap is a construct of time, because with the right combination of things on board, you can go infinite.
But it still has a cap. Like, it doesn't have the blatant, like, disregard for all things in the game that old Nakreen used to have. Like, old Nakreen would be an abomination. Like, a true abomination. Like, even without Uprising, right? Like, just Doppelganger. Like, give me old Nakreen with Doppelganger.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, Nakreen individually does more powerful things than anything individually does in the Nixox combo deck. But, like...
Right. So my point is if you say, like, saying that it limited design space is an excuse, like, I don't buy that. Like, it definitely limited design space, probably more than any card other than maybe I would say Unite the Houses, because I have a lot of concerns about that. Because of its ability to cheat things. Well, just because other cards do it, but they do it worse, like, doesn't mean that this didn't.
Philosophically, too, you're just a fan of broken homes. So, like, uniting the houses is sort of antithetical to...
Well, yeah, that too, but...
your approach to the world.
Yeah, I don't... Nakreen, yeah, I don't know. Old Nakreen was rough. If you're not familiar... Right? Well, let's not pretend like everyone was around back then. Old Nakreen used to cost 10. And the summon effect was wildly different, even though it sounds very similar. It was you draw a card, and then the next card you play is free.
this turn.
Yeah, this turn. But so in the old days, like it used to be, like if you had the ring or if you ramped or whatever, it was like you'd play Nocturne and that would let you cheat out Odiving that much sooner. Right?
That was really the power move then.
Like that was the power move back then because that was all you had. But like in a modern day Legend setting, like if you try to imagine the things you could do with that now, it just like you could basically do the Nyx-Ox combo without even running Nyx-Oxes if you wanted to in a modern day setting. And with Uprising, Thorana, and Nocturne, like that's and Laneth, like
yeah, you could do it without.
You could do that, but like even just like if I play Uprising and then like because he's also drawing a card on top of it, right? Like the things you could do, like imagine the things you could do even without Uprising, right? Like if I Nocturne and then I have like any reasonable amount of magical left over, then Path Mage starts to become really problematic. Like Nocturne would have been disgusting.
Already kind of problematic.
Well, I Path Mage is another one that I have a lot of concerns about. I think that Path Mage is the biggest problem in a lot of the combo decks because everyone always laughs at me when I say it, but I think Path Mage is a better and a more consistent tool than Laneth is in terms of enabling combo decks.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between playing something directly from your deck and drawing something.
Yeah, it leaves you with a lot more magical left over, and the fact that you can run 3 of them makes it a lot more consistent. And the fact that it's playable earlier in the game means if you need to, you can use one defensively and not like matter. Path. It's one of my favorite cards because it's basically alter on a body, but it's a problem in my opinion. Gyre Captain asks me if I ever did a Time to Fight Dagoth. I did, but I never posted much with it because it honestly just wasn't that good.
It's funny, I have played Charge Dagoth and recorded with it.
Yeah, I played it, but it just wasn't very good, and I didn't want people to even try to suffer through what I was suffering through.
It caused one of my favorite comments I've ever gotten, which is somebody told, after I've been playing it for like an hour, they're like, "Justin, you got tricked into playing an aggro deck." And I was like, "Holy fuck, you're right."
Oh yeah, because you were playing with Mimic. You were like, "I'm gonna play Illusory Mimic Dagoth," and then somebody was like, "Yeah, you played aggro Dagoth."
Totally got tricked into playing an aggro deck. Like, wow, I've played a lot of games. It's been an hour, but I played like 9 matches. What the fuck is happening? I'm like, well, guess what, buddy? That deck's fun though.
I mean, it's fun. It just when I was playing it, it just wasn't very good.
It
might be worth revisiting now that I have like Shadow Marking to jam in it again, though, right?
No,
like
you don't play actions in that deck, man.
Sure you do if they draw you cards.
No, I'm trying to maximize my ability to fucking hit Dagoth on turn 6.
Yeah, I know you are. I'm just saying, like, true Time to Fight Dagoth would be probably running Shadow Marking.
I went deep, man. I ran almost every charge creature you could run, actually. Dude, I'm playing fucking Path of Exile, dude, and this game is just not good. I need to delete it. This is why I'm not installing Diablo on my phone, by the way.
Yeah? I'll play it. I'm still more excited for Blades, but I do think that the reaction was... The ongoing reaction to that game being announced is kind of infuriating to me, personally.
Fucking stupid. I did spend this evening watching the Championship Heroes of the Storm matches. Those were some really good fucking games. It ended pretty quickly. It ended in a 3-0 blowout. But, like, they were good fucking games. And actually, like, when we did our casting, the only casting I had ever heard was people casting Heroes of the Storm. Like, those are the people I like to listen to. Yeah.
There's a lot of Dota casters that I actually really enjoy. I think that they have some great casters. I don't really play the game, but I think that they've got some fantastic talent. Indiana Johns in chat says, I played against a guy who drew 6 cards with wild incarnates. Shame on me for playing control against control.
Were you running moose? Were you, like, did you have your own moose? I think you hit the first moose in that unless you cast into time. I was gonna say path exile. Unless you cast into time the first moose, you're gonna lose.
Mac Milanov or Milanov. I always mispronounce it once or twice. Says Jesus Gwent becomes so bad every faction is the same, just boost or deal damage. Yeah, did you play the original Gwent? It's always just been math. It's just numbers. Are my numbers bigger than yours?
Yeah. Yeah, Gwent is boring. I have not, like, I'm sure I have, you know, stuff. I'm not going to play it. Dude, so if I'm running 13 actions in mid-tribunal, do I still run Iron?
Yeah.
4 of them are executes or firebolts.
Probably still run Iron. Like,
3 are sorcerer's negations. I guess getting that back could be really good.
Yeah, I was going to say, as long as I can get back negation or lightning bolt, I'll pretty much always run Iron. That's my own personal stance anyway. Like, those cards are just good enough.
Yeah.
And also, like, what else are you running at a 5-drop anyway, you know?
Phalanx Exemplar. I mean, like, I can see an argument for running the thing that equips creatures and they break runes, but I personally hate that card.
Oh, that card's been one of my favorite things in mid-monk. I have really, really bad, like, luck, or at least I was having bad luck on stream last night, except for Marauder. Like, I would have bad mulligans, bad draws, but then every time Marauder came down, it was just hilarity every time.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I run it in Monk just because of Swift Strike, though, too, right? Like, I think there's a lot of value in combining it with multiple attack and a turn effects.
It's fair.
Iron also draws Harmony, Sea City Toker says.
I have 1 copy of Harmony in here right now. Because I want to play it. It's the only reason to run one, though.
Max says, original at least had casual fun appeal. Now it's only engine or removal, nothing worth experimenting with. I mean, as somebody who played a lot of the original, I didn't really see a lot of casual fun appeal personally. It was always like, keep in mind, I stopped playing it when it was still closed beta. But when I was playing a lot, it was usually which decks let you draw your entire deck every game, because that's how you maximize consistency. And then those were it. Like, there was a time when it was Skellige, then there was a time it was Scoia'tael. It didn't matter what it was. Like, if it could draw your entire deck every game, then that was the one that you played. And then I came back for, I guess I should say that I came back to the game for a very short period when Scoia'tael Mill was a thing, but that was the same thing. Like, you could play your entire deck every game, and that is also just, I don't know. It was always just like engine math whenever I was playing. I actually kind of like the new Gwent, but I'm playing Fun Police Usurper on lower parts of the ladder where it's still viable, and it just frustrates people.
Sounds like a good time.
I mean, I think you would like it.
Really?
the deck I'm playing, yeah, it's like right up your alley. It's just a lot of removal, and my leader just cancels the other leader. And a lot of people are like building decks around their leader or whatever, so it's just like, nope. Right? It's just, no.
Every game of Gwent I've played, no matter what deck I played, felt exactly the same.
Well, yeah, they all basically are the same.
Yeah. It's good times.
Pete Creighton says, yep, that's the only deck I played in Homecoming, the draw your whole deck. Yeah, because it, like, listen, card games by their nature are typically about, like, maximizing your consistency. as card game players, we like to play games that introduce variance and then see how we can overcome the variance, right? Like, we play the games with variance because that means our experience is hopefully different every time, and then you do things to be more consistent. But the minute that I am playing Gwent and I'm playing decks that draw my entire deck, it gets boring to me because I no longer have variance. It plays the same almost every time, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm never one of those people who's going to tell you that I think that like all RNG is bad by any means. I like card games because of the emergent gameplay. I like being rewarded for properly adapting to board states and having things be a little bit different. And a lot of that is just not in Gwent every time I start playing it at a high level, which is why I stopped playing forever ago.
I think being high is the only time playing Gwent is fun. As I say, as a guy who's never been high while playing Gwent. And I've never had fun playing Gwent.
Yeah.
Telvanni conscription, good times, man.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
I guess we'll see people on the ladder.
Yeah, see you guys on the ladder. Sorry about the bummer.